Hello there folks, my name is Spooks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was Love Again, opening with $2.3 million this weekend domestically and $2.4 million worldwide. So last week I kind of glossed over this movie. I didn't have that many expectations going into it, and fortunately for me, in terms of predictions, I was right to do so. This movie did not do at all anywhere good. No, there's no sugarcoating it. This is a pretty bad opening in general. Maybe there were some arguments to be there that, it's a romantic comedy, it's a different audience, and maybe with its cheap budget of $9 million, it could make that back. And sure, yeah, I could see that, but I just felt that the marketing was just so lackluster and no one was really talking about this movie. And it'll be lucky. I think the movie will be lucky to get to that doubling point domestically, as I'm not sure how this movie's going to stack up. This is already a really bad opening in general, so unless by some miracle this movie gets a huge boost in the coming weeks, I just don't see this movie lasting in the top 5 for much long or doing anything really well, unfortunately. Hopefully it garners an audience on home video, streaming, DVD, and whatnot, but right now this is a pretty bad start. Number 4 was Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, making $3.2 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $12 million. That total stays the same worldwide, as it still hasn't been released in any international countries yet. So the movie held relatively well this weekend and only dropped 52%, but it's still unfortunately not enough to get this movie where it needs to. Thanks to the $30 million budget, it still has a ways of going of surpassing that, let alone doubling it. Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like this movie came out at the best time, so late in April, and as we kick off the summer movie season, I feel like it's just only gonna get overshadowed by everything else, sadly. I think they were hoping, again, like Love Again, counter-programming, and of course the popularity of the book. I think they were hoping for like some sort of small sleeper hit here, but unfortunately that's not the case. Again, maybe like Love Again, hopefully when this hits home video, streaming, DVD, Blu-ray, you name it, it'll spark an audience, as it's definitely found its audience, like theaters, and from people who have seen it, audiences are certainly liking it, critics are certainly liking it. So I do have hope and faith that this will find an audience later on, but as for right now, it's not looking too good for it theatrical wise, unfortunately. Number 3 was Evil Dead Rise, making $5.8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $54 million and a worldwide total of $114 million. So not only has the film surpassed the $100 million milestone worldwide, it has also surpassed the entire worldwide run of the 2013 Evil Dead remake, making it the biggest Evil Dead film of all time. Such a huge honor. What a great accomplishment this film was able to do. And also an interesting tidbit, it is just $3 million behind Shazam! Fury of the Gods' entire domestic total, and it will surely be able to surpass that by the end of this week, making it the biggest Warner Brothers film of the year so far. And I'm sure they're all just ecstatic for that to happen. Worldwide, it's still like a little bit over $15 million away from Shazam's worldwide total. We'll see if it can get to that milestone. It does seem to be slowing down a bit, so that might be a bit of a longer journey to get there, but still, this movie has just done very well. While it wasn't as huge as Scream 6 or Megan on the domestic side, it got pretty darn close to them worldwide, I believe. And again, with a budget as cheap as $15 to $19 million, $100 million worldwide total is nothing to sneeze at. This is a huge number, a great amount of success for this movie. I'm sure everyone is very happy with how well this movie is done. Certainly Warner Brothers, that's for darn sure. And again, while it is slowing down, I still think it's going to be able to have some steam left in it until The Boogeyman in June as the only real horror film out right now. So yeah, overall, another solid weekend for Evil Dead Rise. We'll see how much further this train can go, but yeah, it's still doing very well. Number 2 was the Super Mario Brothers movie, making $18 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $518 million and a worldwide total of $1.1 billion. So despite losing its number 1 spot and taking the biggest hit in its entire theatrical run, it's still doing very well. It only dropped 55% from the previous weekend, which, given the competition, I think is a pretty much best case scenario there. And because of that, the film was also able to surpass another milestone as it became Illumination's biggest film ever worldwide. Yes, it has surpassed the entire worldwide run of the first Minions movie. I mean, everyone saw it coming as soon as the opening weekend happened, but still, that's a very big accomplishment for Illumination. And again, showing how strong this movie held against the competition. I think it's going to continue holding very well for the coming weeks. It still has time before The Little Mermaid and Spider-Verse hit theaters, so I do think because it's the only animated film, family film out right now, it's going to do very well against all the other big summer blockbusters coming out at the moment. And yeah, I as you can probably tell, I'm running out of very positive things to say about this movie. It's pretty much made it all the money it needs to. Now we just play the waiting game, see how much more steam is left in the tank for this movie in the coming weeks. But yeah, I still think this movie's got enough in the tank for it to continue to be very successful. So yeah, another solid weekend for Mario. It's gonna continue being very successful, despite this being pretty much the sign that things are gonna slow down a bit for the film. But again, it's pretty much made all the money it needed to, so you really can't complain. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, opening with $118 million this weekend domestically and $288 million worldwide. So let's get these milestones out of the way first. Of course, this is already the biggest opening weekend of the summer so far. Obviously, also the biggest movie of the summer overall as well. It is the biggest opening weekend for a comic book movie this year, topping Quantumania and Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and is the second best opening weekend of the year so far, sitting behind the Super Mario Brothers movie, but topping, once again, Quantumania, John Wick Chapter 4, and Creed 3. This is definitely an interesting opening weekend because I can definitely see where people might be a little bit disappointed by it, but I can also see why others aren't that, because while yes, this was able to top the first Guardians of the Galaxy, it is kind of significantly, well, not significantly, but somewhat down from the second one's opening weekend for sure. I think that has to do with Marvel's recent output, especially Quantumania being so bad. I think that turned people off a bit. So I definitely think this movie is unfortunately paying for that film's failures, sadly. However, I don't think this is going to be another Quantumania, not at all, as I do believe this movie is going to have much better legs, much better word of mouth, as audiences are gelling with this movie a bit better. Like the predecessors before it, it got an A on CinemaScore, which is very solid. And an interesting thing about this opening weekend was initially it was around $110 million, but as the weekend went on, the days went on, the numbers just kept improving. So that is definitely a sign showing word of mouth is very strong. With the days passing, more and more people encouraged others to go see it, and others did go see it. So I do believe that word of mouth will be better than definitely Quantumania, but I am still very curious to see what the drop-off is. We'll see if it plummets, we'll see how badly it affects it, or if it holds better than what people expect it to. But overall, I don't think this is a bad opening at all. It is definitely made back its $250 million budget. I think it's still going to be able to double that. We'll see how big this movie can get, as this is certainly a much crowded May than last May was for Doctor Strange, so we'll see how the competition affects this movie, and of course the word of mouth. But yeah, I don't think this is a bad opening. It's an interesting opening to be sure, but I wouldn't call this bad. I do think we're gonna have to wait to see how it legs out, how audiences respond to this movie. As if it exceeds those expectations, we're going to see a very solid performance, but if not, then we can start getting concerned. But as for right now, I think this is a decent start. We'll see where it goes from here, but I don't think this is a bad opening right now. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend we only really have one new major wide release, as far as I'm aware, and that is Book Club 2. Remember Book Club? Remember that movie that came out in 2018 that was actually moderately successful? It's getting a sequel. Now, I clearly don't think this movie's going to be as big as the first one. There's literally no buzz for this movie, and the marketing hasn't been the best. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this turn out like 80 for Brady in that sense, kind of a sleeper hit that attracts older audiences, but not enough to say, oh, wow, this did fairly better than I expected it to do, because I really don't think the book club fan base is that big, really. But it wouldn't surprise me to see at least a pretty surprising opening weekend. Nothing grand, nothing huge, mind you, but something to at least make me go, oh, that was better than expected. So yeah, kind of low expectations, not the highest bar, but we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all those social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.